So not only are we just 24 hours away from the NBA trade deadline, which still no updates or moves that have been made by the Bulls at the time of this recording, and with a day away from the deadline and it being Wednesday, you know what we do on this channel on Wednesday, and that is talk about Bulls hot takes. So let's jump into it. What's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. We've got some good takes for you guys today, some that pertain to tomorrow's deadline. Let's go ahead and kick it off with that topic, actually. This is a couple that we have here. This is from the Discord. We've got Hitty390 with the Bulls will be buyers by the trade deadline. And then we've got VSCO with the Bulls will make a trade today. Yes, today. Well, I actually took the screenshot yesterday when gathering all the hot takes, so that didn't happen. Now, as of today, maybe. I still don't think the Bulls are going to be making any moves before the deadline at all. I know I continue to say that, but I really do think the front office is going to play this one safe while they're still evaluating the roster in their first season in the new role. And the bulk of the shifts and changes, in my view, I think to the team will come in the offseason. But if there was a trade to be made, I think it'll likely come hours before the deadline, as it usually is the case. Most of the transactions around the league are completed the very last minute, so I would say it's unlikely the Bulls make a trade even today, but it would be funny if one happens while I'm editing this video just to prove me wrong. Now, as far as Hitty360 and the Bulls, that they'll be buyers by the trade deadline, well, if they are going to make any moves, yes, I would say they're going to be buyers over being sellers. But like I said, I don't think any trades will be happening for the Bulls. Next up, we've got Tego 2 Wavy with Daniel Gafford. Can actually be a really good player under the perfect system. Some of you guys know me too well because you know I'll always bite at a Daniel Gafford hot take. If you've been following the channel, you know I've always been high on Daniel Gafford, which probably to a fault because he's not as good as I probably make him out to be. I just love the guy's energy and his athleticism and his strength inside and getting offensive rebounds and of course his highlight dunks. But really outside of that, there isn't a ton Gafford can do. You know, he can't shoot, not a good post-up player, and gets a little lost with the ball in his hands on offense. He's a decent rim protector and shot blocker. I guess it depends on, you know, your definition of what you're calling really good, because if you mean really good as a solid role player who can give you some rim protection and crash offensive boards for 15 to 20 minutes off the bench, then yeah, I would agree. I don't see Gafford ever becoming an all-star or by any means though, or even really a starter in this league. I mean, we've kind of seen what happens when Gafford is placed in a starting role when Wendell got injured, and he did not show up well when given that opportunity. He just doesn't fare well against other starting centers. I'm not sure, given a new system that would be put in place, an ideal perfect system for him would really change that, like you mentioned. I do think Gafford can still get better. He's young and he has talent, but I don't really see a good player in the making per se. But again, it depends on your definition of what you mean by a good player. As much as I'd love to say that, you know, I love the guy, but I love his hustle and his energy, but I don't really see him becoming anything more than just a role player in this league as a backup center. Next up, we've got Darth. Lauri won't be re-signed by the Bulls when he becomes a restricted free agent. I mean, it's definitely possible. I don't even know if this is a hot take anymore at this point. It's possible he might even get traded here in the next 24 hours if the Bulls suspect some team is going to offer him a large contract that they're not going to be willing to match in free agency. And I mean, based on the way that Lauri has been playing more recently, I'm not so sure the Bulls would re-sign him if a team offers him more than $20 million a year. He just hasn't proven he's worth that much. He could end up proving that he's worth that much as time goes on, but where he stands right now, I don't know if the front office wants to eat up a good chunk of their salary cap on Markkanen from what we've seen of him today. You know, it's not to mention the injury concerns, just his availability to play. That's also an added component when they're factoring in how much they want to pay him in free agency. You know, his injury this season wasn't the first time we've seen Markkanen sidelined due to a small or minor injury in his short career. He's missed a significant amount of time and games throughout his 4 seasons in the league. So yes, I wouldn't be shocked if the Bulls don't re-sign him, or I guess I should say match an offer sheet from another team. But I think Lauri, you know, he hasn't been playing exceptionally well, and there are injury concerns. And because of that, it's likely he might not get that great of offers from other teams, and the Bulls will be able to re-sign him on a reasonable deal, which I hope that's what ends up being the case, because I actually do think Lauri does still have potential. I just don't think he's worth committing that much money to. So if some team offers him a very large contract, it's not worth matching at this point. Next up, this one comes to us from Who Is Him. Hot take, Bulls should have kept Bobby Portis and Chris Dunn. I mean, hindsight is always 20/20. Now, I started this channel around the time when the Bulls decided not to extend Chris Dunn their qualifying offer, and I mentioned I didn't like this move at all, not because I thought Dunn was an amazing player, but rather that Arturas decided to prioritize Denzel Valentine over Dunn. To me, I think Dunn, for his flaws, he's a great defender, a very scrappy player with a lot of energy, and he wasn't that bad on offense. Not great, but it's not like Valentine is all that much better on offense either. And Dunn clearly has a higher basketball IQ than Denzel does, I'm sorry to say. Now, of course, Chris Dunn has been injured, so you look at this move and think, well, Denzel has at least been available to play, and that's fair. You could also say Dunn would have cost more than Valentine, which is also true. But if you look at what the Bulls need right now, and that's more defense, especially perimeter defense, and that's something that Dunn offers, at least when he's healthy anyway, which I know that's a big component to, why you would want to actually keep a player. Bobby Portis, I mean, it would be nice to have Portis just as another big man who can play okay defense, and he's also not that bad on offense as well. He's also another high energy player, which all of you know that I like, but I think Portis likely would have cost too much, more than he's worth, which you actually saw in what the Knicks offered him in that fat contract that they gave him, which they declined the team option of his second year. And now he's on a very cheap deal for the type of numbers that he's actually putting up in Milwaukee. Only 2 years, $7.4 million. I mean, Bobby has been very efficient for the minutes that he's been playing with Milwaukee. He's shooting 46% from three. Since when did that happen? Not on many attempts, I know, but still, he's also shooting 53% from the field, his career best. I actually suspect he'll likely decline his cheap player option for next season with Milwaukee and see if he can get more money elsewhere based on how he's playing. But in short, yes, it would have been nice to keep him, but not sure that really would have changed much for the Bulls. Next up, Eric Donnelly. Joker will sign with the Chicago Bulls in free agency and instantly put us into title contention if we can hold on to Zach and Williams continues to develop. So I actually gave a hot take of my own in a video last week, and that it was one of Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. would eventually be in a Bulls uniform in the near future because of their close ties with Arturas and the fact that Arturas still maintains a strong bond with them. And I think he's doing that strategically. Again, that's why it's a hot take and probably a bit more wishful thinking. So as for your take, I mean, I like it, obviously. Would love to see Nikola Jokic in a Bulls uniform. The problem is the Nuggets have Jokic locked into a max contract through 2023. So it's not like he's going to be available this free agency, and I doubt the Nuggets would ever trade him before then. Jokic is 26 now, he'll be 28 by the time he's a free agent, so he won't be old by any means, and will still be in his prime. I think the question more so is if the Bulls can hold on to Zach until that long. Can they show Lavine that the team is making progress to make him want to stay beyond his current contract, which expires at the end of next season? But let's say that we do, and like you said, Patrick Williams continues to develop as well. By 2 years' time, when Jokic becomes a free agent, and if the Bulls were able to sign him, I mean, yeah, I could see the Bulls becoming contenders with Lavine, Jokic, and Patrick Williams, and hopefully some other pieces to go with that as well, no question. Let's do one more. This one is from Poi258. Pat W. will win an MVP in 5 years. That's pretty hot. I mean, he's 19 right now. To win an MVP at 24 is hard in and of itself. I know Rose did it and he won an MVP at the age of 22, but that was the first time that had ever been done in NBA history. And it's not often you see a player win an MVP before 25. On top of that, I do really like Patrick. I think there is a ton of upside potential from this kid in being a fantastic two-way player. But I do think he's going to take some time to develop. I mean, first, he's got to be more aggressive on the offensive end, not be timid with the ball and driving to the basket. He's got to improve his jumper, and we need to see him play a little more consistently. He's had some great nights and then very quiet nights, which is expected. He's just a rookie. But I do think there is going to take some time in developing him into a star player. Now in 5 years, could he be a potential all-star? I think that is more reasonable, but an MVP in 5 years, at least from what we're seeing right now from Patrick Williams, I think that's a pretty big stretch and more wishful thinking. So I'll end it there, guys. Apologies if I didn't get to your hot take, but wanted to make sure that this video didn't drag on forever. Leave any hot takes that you guys have in the comments if you want your take to be featured in next week's video. The Bulls will be taking on the Cavs tonight. I'll have a live group chat for that as always. I'll also keep you guys updated on any situations that progress as we get closer to the trade deadline. Be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in as always, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.